Mama, have you ever felt that quiet nudge that tells you it's time to take the next step, but you don't listen to it because life is too busy or too noisy? Today, I sat down with Dr. Adrian and we talked about the importance of listening to that nudge, managing your time with intention, and breaking free from comparison and mean girl culture. So, if you are ready to lead with peace, purpose, and intention, this conversation's for you. Hey, mamas, welcome back to Mamas Building Businesses. I am absolutely ecstatic about the conversation we're going to have today with Dr. Adrian from Rooted in Wellness. She is an occupational therapist who works with kids of all ages and provides parent resources for said kids. Adrian, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I am so excited to chat with you because you are a full-time stepmom. You are a homeschooling mama. You run a practice. So tell us a little bit about who Adrian is personally and then as a part of all those other roles.
Sure. Well, as any mom, right, would say that personally, it's kind of hard to like always find ourselves. But I really enjoy like spending time with my family. I love being outside in nature. I'm super involved in our church. I'm on our worship team. So we also do mission trips to the Dominican Republic. So I'm sit on a board with that. So we're always very busy, and chaos is like my middle name. And I love to serve people. Like that is just one of my giftings, I think, is just serving. So yeah, very, very busy person. I live at home with my two doodles, my husband and my stepdaughter. So we always are, into something or playing outside, going in different places for our travel. Lots of busyness, but it's all fun.
Lots of adventure, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So you did not always work for yourself. So let's talk a little bit about the journey to opening your own practice.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, so my practice we opened last year, so about a year and a half ago at this point. I had worked in the pediatric space for occupational therapy for it was almost 10 years at that point. I've worked for nonprofits. I had worked at a for-profit company. I worked in outpatient centers. I've worked in schools. I kind of dabbled in like some school contracting along with early intervention. So that was more home-based. And I always wanted to work with kids. So that has been my primary, I've been working with the kids for, all 10 years of that. And I worked PRN in a rehab hospital as well to just kind of keep my foot in the door. Because I always said, I don't know if I'm going to want to have kids all day at work and then go home to kids as well all the time. So I was like,
Yeah.
well, let me keep my skills up there. And then a year and a half ago, I had kind of just decided, like I don't want to work for somebody else. I would like to be able to set my own hours, treat the way that I feel like as a therapist is appropriate in treating. I was always in network with insurance companies at that point as well. And so insurance really dictates these are how many sessions you're allowed to have. This is how long that we'll pay for. And unfortunately, in OT, that just doesn't work very well in a lot of ways that we want to treat. We want to really look at root causes in our practice. And I want to be able to meet the families where they're at. So if that's at, a grocery store and that's what we need to work on, maybe that's where we go. But insurance won't always cover a lot of those things, especially in the state of PA. So that kind of led me to all of this practice.
So because I truly am just not that familiar. I mean, I know what occupational therapists do for adults, but because we do have so many moms listening who, may or may not know what
Yeah.
an OT does, like who are the children that you see? What do you see them for? And is it typically something where you do see them for a certain number of sessions in some cases, and then they don't come to you anymore? Or do most kids have like a long-term plan?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, OT in general, we're looking at occupations And occupations can be anything that we do in our daily life. So for kids, our daily life is play, it's learning, it's leisure skills, it's our motor skills, and we really look at the kid as a whole. So not just, can you write your name or are you eating a variety of foods, but what's going on under the surface with that. So we look at a lot of sensory processing and what are we aware of within our body? What are we aware of all of the external environment? Um, our noise is bothersome, our textures bothersome, and what's creating that. So a lot of our kids will be like picky eaters will come in. We have a lot of kids who just struggle with nervous and emotional system regulation. So they are the kids that are having really big feelings all the time, and meltdowns and behavioral, I'm going to quote behaviors, because behavior always comes from somewhere. And when you look at it through this sensory lens, there's often a lot of other things that incorporate with that. So we'll have a lot of kids that are, diagnosed maybe on the autism spectrum, kiddos who have diagnosis of ADHD, some that are just kind of developmentally behind where they should be. I always like to say OT is so broad because we literally can work with anything that's part of your daily life. So whether that is sleep or it's eating or it's play, there's so many things within that. And not all OTs see it that way. I just feel like we're very holistic in the sense that we can really target anything. So if you come in and you're saying as a parent, oh, my child's really struggling with, eating only out at a restaurant, or like they're not eating, certain foods at the home, or we're able to do really well in school, but then at home we're melting down, we're having all of these, difficulties with our emotions. All of that is part of OT because it's all the inner workings of everything that is our brain is always constantly processing.
So I find that fascinating and I think it's so cool. And this like definitely isn't the channel to go down the rabbit hole that I want to take this conversation. But I love that you look at it that way because I was a medic in the military and then I have been on and military is a little different than civilian, but I have been on my own wellness journey and I like kind of hate taking medication and just figuring different things out, but when you start really like going down that rabbit hole you recognize that a lot of times, and this is absolutely no shade to anybody in medicine, right? um it is looked at through such like a tunnel vision of like I'll give you the perfect example. A couple years ago, I had like 6 ear infections in like a year. It was very bizarre. And so my family doctor sent me to an ENT. And at the same time, I was struggling with migraines. Well, here, the ENT determined that the migraines were causing like inflammation in my eardrum. I didn't actually have ear infections at all.
Wow. Yeah.
And she
All
was like, I
right.
understand why your doctor thought that. You know what I mean? And it was no, I'm not, there was no fault of my doctor in that. But I do think that a lot of times there's like this tunnel vision for symptoms and
Yes.
not like looking at like this overwhelming or the body as a whole
As
system.
a whole. Absolutely. Yeah. And then there's like layers of every family is unique and every environment is different. So you have to really put all of those together and see what's really happening underneath what we're just seeing.
I was going to say, I mean, when you first told me parent resources, I wasn't exactly sure what you meant, but I imagine there's a great deal of educating the parents on how to, help change the home environment,
Yeah.
how they react and deal with things. Like as you figure those things out, there must be a ton of like education for the parent.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I always, sometimes I question like, why is this just common sense that I know, or is it's not? Because in OT, like this is what we think about all the time. But I question, why are we not teaching mom, especially moms and dads, like this stuff should be on the forefront of when you're becoming a parent. What is it that we need to know? Because if your child is melting down, probably it's not our best time because our brain at that moment is like in this survival state. It's not our best time to ask them to do their homework or learn this thing. Or,
Mhm.
and for adults, I mean, we're the same way, right? When we're stressed, we're not going to go learn everything brand new at that point in time. So it's a lot of just as parents, like, how do we shift the focus a little bit and really look at it from where are our kids and how do we relate to them in this moment in time, too? Yeah.
How do you feel that stepping into, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you
Mm.
were an OT.
Mhm.
before you were a full-time stepmom, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
how has that experience shifted you in your practice? Like, how has it shifted you as an OT now being responsible and having a child 24/7?
Yeah.
Because it gives you a different perspective,
It's
I would
different.
imagine, when you
Absolutely.
have kids compared to when you don't have kids.
Absolutely. I think in the first part, it actually made me a lot more relatable for a lot of our families because I remember being like a new grad. I'm 24 years old, fresh out of this program. I'm like, well, here's all these things. And I've worked with kids for a long time. Like I babysat a long time. So I kind of get it. But until you're there full time and you are like, you're in the trenches sometimes, you don't realize how hard it is to go home and like do this exercise program that you're asking me to do, or so
Yeah.
I think it's made it very much like this is the real world. And I tell parents that too. Like, I live in the real world. Yes, I have my stepdaughter. She's full time. We have a lot of trauma that we've processed. So, like, looking at all of that piece of it, it's not just cut and dry. Like, you have to do X, Y, and Z. It is, again, we're looking at everything. So, I understand that. I'm okay if you come back and you're like, hey, this was a really rough week. We didn't get anything done. That's okay because it's the real world and this is where we live. This is where we live.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I can just imagine, I mean, I was a young mom, right? So, like, I had my daughter at 17, and even if I was 24 and you were saying, like, oh, do XYZ, I can imagine, especially me at that age and sort of having some of like the pride things going on, like
Right.
me personally,
Absolutely.
I would
Yeah.
have been like, I've
This is
already been a parent
no.
for 7 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, so I get it.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
do get it. I mean, obviously, I would like to think I'm a lot more gracious now, but like back then, I can imagine it would be kind of like
Like,
who is she to tell me? Like I've been a parent for seven, like they're seven, you know?
absolutely right. I've
So
been in this. I know what I'm doing.
yeah, so
What
I
do you
I get
know?
it. I definitely get it. Um, okay, so when it comes to your business, because you do run this incredible practice, you do have a full-time kid who is she's like in middle school, right?
Yeah, she's in sixth grade. Yeah.
Which is been there. I've been
Great.
there,
Yeah. We're
right? So
12,
it's
12-year-old.
just a time where I think, you know, it's there's different times in parenting that require more emotional support, and I think that like middle school, junior high age is like a very tender age. It you know what I mean? For my kids, it was too. Um, and you're homeschooling and you have a marriage that you have to, you know, you work at your marriage. So how do you balance all of these things?
I don't always. And realistically, I really do try. And I know like I will preach balance to our families, but that is something that this year and the last year and a half, I'd say, I've really tried to kind of like step back and say to myself, like, okay, I do need to take care of myself and my daughter and our marriage. And we we were very quickly thrown into full-time parenting. Carly had lost her mom after a long time of like mental health issues, and she decided to end her life. So it was very quick and it was very traumatic. And we kind of were like, for the last, it's been almost 3 years. So for the first 2 years, I'd say we were like head down and we're like, okay, get whatever Carly needs. We need to just focus on her. And now, as we're like kind of coming out of that, I feel like for my husband and I both, we're both like, oh, there's this whole world where it's not just about what she needs and like what are we just need to get through, to pay the bills and take care of all of the emotional pieces. But like, what do we need to do for ourselves? So that's been a big thing within the last year. And with starting homeschooling, we didn't always homeschool. We pulled her out of school last November. So it's been just over a year. And it was because the school just wasn't fitting like her emotional needs at the time. And she really just needed stability. And we needed to go back to the foundations of things. So that was a really quick shift. I had her in the office with me a lot, which is great that I could, but then I also felt really bad because I'd be like, well, I'm over here playing with these kids and teaching these parents things, but like you're in here doing your schoolwork. And where do you find that balance? So it was a lot of just like, okay, right now we're in the trenches. We just got to kind of get through this. But this year I stepped back and really made my schedule so I'm more available at home in the mornings. And she is 12, so she'll be home sometimes by herself for an hour or two before dad gets home, which she loves because, you know, what 12-year-old doesn't want that
Alone
independence?
time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, oh, this is great. So we can focus on her schooling in the morning, and then she kind of has like free time in the afternoon. And then I come in, we work with a lot of kids who are in school all day. So I'm here from about 2 to 7 usually. That's when I see a majority of my caseload. But while she's schooling, I can do a lot of like the back end social media management kinds of things. So it's a lot of multitasking and a lot of like, oh, yes, let's remind ourselves like we are also important and we need to, you know, get outside and get some fresh air and like practice what we preach a little bit. So it's not easy for sure, but it's something that I have purposely really put on my goals of like, this is what I need to focus on right now is like get a little bit more balance because we all feel better in our family when we're balanced. And my husband and I have been more intentional about, you know, like, okay, once a week we're going to sit down and watch a show together because we are in very different schedules. And so we're, you know, he's leaving in the morning and I'm home, and then I'm leaving and he's coming home, and we're like, shoot, you know, we're not
Ships
actually
passing in the night.
literally, we say that all the time. So it's a lot of very intentional, like being very intentional with what are we using our time for and what are we doing with our time. Yeah.
So I really love that you use the word intentional because if there is one thing that I have learned through my own journey with in every phase of life, truthfully, like military, corporate, I owned a brick and mortar for a while, then I owned a home-based business, you know, a marketing agency, but I worked from home. I didn't go into an office or anything. And um, I think we hear balance and we think it's like, oh, I'm going to give 50% of my energy to work and I'm going to give 50% of my energy to the kids. But I think that balance looks different in every phase of life. Like you went through two periods where Carly probably needed 80 to 90% and everything
Absolutely.
else had to fit into that 10 to 20.
Yeah.
And and I love that you use the word intentional because it is probably the biggest message I hope to convey in these conversations is that success and balance and freedom, like all those things that we strive for, they look very different to all of us. And even
Absolutely.
within our own lives, they look different. Like for
Yeah.
me, those words meant something differently 4 years ago when both of my
Mhm.
kids were at home.
Absolutely. It's so
And
different. And
now when I have a lot more time, you know, my
yeah,
daughter, she has a house and a husband and she's in grad school and you know what I mean? It and so it looks different at all times. And the intentional piece is so important because you really have to take responsibility for setting up your life and your business for a way that is conducive to you, your family, and the season of life that you're in.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's like the beauty, I think, of being your own business because I can say like, you know what, right now this is not a time that I can dedicate 4 hours in the morning to all of these things. And when she was in school in my head, it was going to be like, oh yeah, we have all this time where she's at school and like I can dedicate all this time. But then I was getting phone calls from the school or my husband was getting phone calls and, you know, she was angry. She was going through grief. She was angry. She was flipping tables and we had to go pick her up. And it was like, okay, well now what? Because now I canceled my whole day anyway. And we have to make up all the work that you didn't do. Like, what are we doing
Yeah.
here? So it's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
So with that being said, does do you feel that that has really impacted your ability? I mean, we talked a little bit about you not having a child and having a child in your business, but I can imagine you juggling those things and being intentional and just what you've essentially done is time block, time
The
block your
time, yes.
schedules, right? And so when you are working with parents and families, are you sharing those tips with them as well? I'm assuming like
Yeah,
even like the lifestyle tips that aren't directly related to the
absolutely.
child.
Yes, absolutely. So we will do that sometimes like in our OT sessions, but I also offer parent coaching. And so during those times, I feel like that's when I'm able to, it's usually a virtual, you know, a video call with parents, the child's not present. And that's when I'm able to really help them figure out like, okay, you guys are telling me these things. Here's what I'm hearing from mom, from dad. How are we going to get you to time block like your priority of your relationship, and also how do you spend some time with your child? Like, can we time block even if it's 15 minutes after school? Here's what you're going to do. But then from the sensory aspect, I want you to do these types of activities to support your kid's sensory system and yours, because we all have a nervous system, we all have a sensory system, and we need to honor it too. So I feel like I have become kind of an expert in time blocking, and it definitely has been helpful in our coaching processes too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny that just recently, the last couple weeks, I have not stuck to my time blocking schedule because I have been trying to shift things around and fit more in before Christmas. And I'm at
The
a
holidays,
place
but
where
yeah.
I'm like, I cannot wait. I mean, I love Christmas and I love
Yeah,
family time, but I'm like, I literally can't wait till the holidays are over and I just get back on like a consistent track because
absolutely.
it makes me personally feel a little scatterbrained. Like we're just able to
Yeah.
be so much more effective when we have like this organized schedule that we follow.
Yeah. I feel that
So,
very deep in my soul. Yeah.
so time obviously was a very big reason why you started your own practice. When you and I chatted before, you were talking about how you really were praying for clarity about what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering for, any mama who's listening, because I think that sometimes we feel these nudges that
Yeah.
we're supposed to like take a leap,
Yeah.
but we don't always trust them, right? Or we
Yeah.
start thinking of all the ways they won't work or all the ways that we're not capable of making it work or, we kind of go into that like imposter syndrome spiral. Um, so from your experience, what did it look like to, I guess one, when did you know like, okay, this is it?
Yeah.
And two, what did it look like to actually obey that nudge?
Yeah. It was hard. Um, and it was so when I was praying for that clarity, like I was literally in this like inner turmoil of I know I can't stay where I'm at. It just got very toxic very quickly. Um, and I knew that it wasn't the right place for me, but I didn't know where to go. And I was like, well, okay, I know kids are my passion. Working with families is really my passion. There's nowhere else in our area that you can do that. I could do early intervention. I really didn't want to. I hate being in the school-based system. I didn't want to do that. And I had interviewed at some places, and that was part of my process of like, okay, I kind of heard the nudge and I heard the like, yes, go for it, but I wasn't ready to commit to it yet. But everything that I followed through with the interview, like I'd get offered the job, but the hours were terrible for what we needed, or the pay just wasn't there, or it was like, I don't know, like, I don't want to work with adults all day long. Like I really love working with the kids and their families. So 2024, when I started the business, I had a friend who does like a word of the year, and I had never done that before. And I was like, you know what? This year, my word is surrender. And it was probably the end of December, is when I was really thinking, like, what am I going to do? So, December 2023, moving into 24. And I prayed and prayed and prayed. And I just heard, like, yes, like, just go for it, do it and trust it. And so then in January, when I kind of like set my goals, I think it was like January 4th, I came home from work that day and I literally like banged out a logo and I made a mission statement and a vision statement and all these things. And I think just the fact that it was all kind of like put into my mind, like that solidified it for me too, of like, okay, yes, you can do this. I paid for like the business to be started. But then I kind of sat on it because I had a student at the time at the place that I was working. I was the only OT there. And so if I left, that student wasn't going to be able to finish their rotation. So they had like 10 more weeks of their rotation left. So I waited, and then I was like, okay, but I'm kind of building things on the side in the background. But it was truly, again, I'm going to come back to like the intentional piece. Like intentionally had to be like, all right, Lord, I hear this. I hear this is what I'm supposed to do. And I like control. Like I like to
Thanks.
know what's happening. Like, and I mean, I don't think anybody who gets into this position, doesn't like to be in control of something.
Mhm.
But I was like, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to start this. Like, I had some of the background of how to build a program. And my doctoral capstone was building a program. So I understood the marketing piece. I understood the budgeting, but like physically, like where do I go physically? I can't afford a building. So I just prayed and prayed, and I had other church members with us, family friends that were praying over things. And honestly, like God just like lined everything up for it where we were working with a doctor locally for Carly, and she's like, "Oh, well, I have all this space in my office. Like, do you want to lease it for a certain percentage? Because I'm not using it anyway." And it'll work out because I was ready to go to people's houses and just do therapy in the homes. So that was like just another sign of like, okay, yes, this is the path you're supposed to be going on. This is what's happening. And we had just people, I think, just kept kind of flooding in of like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I love what you're doing. So, but it was very intentionally me being like, all right, I can't do this on my own. And I just remember being like, hands out, like this, I am surrendering it. And whatever is supposed to happen, like God's going to lead it. So it was
That's incredible. And then it's like those doors open and it's confirmation, right?
absolutely, yes. And then it was like, okay, we can do this. Okay, thank you, Lord. What's next?
So I asked that question specifically. I think I'm going to share this with you when we first chatted, but with this community, I kind of sat on it for like a year and a half.
Okay.
And I think that was for a lot of reasons. One of them was definitely control. One
Mhm.
of them, I think, was after having a business that was so successful, I think I was scared to start over, like from nothing.
Yeah.
Um, and when we are so rooted in control, I don't know if you experience this, but it's like sometimes you get this idea and you cannot let go of understanding how it's going to happen.
Yes.
Like, you were saying like about the space. Like for me, I try to, I think of things on like this macro level, but when it comes to planning them, I'm very detail oriented. And so, like, if I can't see the details, I'm like, it's not time, right?
Right.
And so I really worry about the how. And even when it came to like very first starting the YouTube channel, which was how I started, I was like, I finally got sick of my own crap and I was like, okay, I'm going to record a video today. It's going to go up tomorrow. Then we'll figure everything else out. Um, but when it came to reaching out to mamas, I was very like, I felt like I was like asking people for a favor because I really didn't have a platform yet. And as soon as I started taking action, the response was, "Oh my gosh, this is so needed. Oh my gosh, I would love to. Oh my gosh, I want to do this." And I was like, "Oh, oh,
Like there's the confirmation. There it is.
yes." And I
Yeah.
had like this moment of I actually said to one of my so my I have a cousin who I'm very, very close with. I have a huge family, but I have a cousin I'm extremely close with, and we actually go to the same church. And I was like, it's almost like when God tells you to do something,
Right.
you're
It
supposed to do it.
Yes, right.
So that's why I
Yeah.
asked you that question because I think that we are in our own way so much of the time.
Yes. So much.
So
Yeah,
much of the time. So and then when you said the control thing, I was like, oh yeah, I really feel you. So
absolutely.
okay, so we don't have to go down the entire story. If you don't want, you can share as much or as little as you want of like the last place you worked at being
Mhm.
toxic, but we did chat about it a little bit. And so you have seen the mean girl side of business, which
Mhm.
I have experienced as well over the years. And I don't think it's like just in who you work with. I think it happens a lot in networking. Like
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate of community and connection. I just think it's what we were created for. And I think a lot of times when people are so focused on like money and profits, it's
Mhm.
very like it's hard to network with people like that because they only want to give if they're going to see an immediate return,
Yeah.
and that's not the point necessarily of establishing connections. Like
No.
I may refer somebody to you 2 years down the road and it might be the best client you ever have, but
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's just interesting. um but with that being said, what type of like collaborative culture
Mhm.
are you committed to as the top of your practice? Because we know like company culture starts at the top.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely experienced like what I would say at my last place where it was kind of like a facade of like, yeah, we're going to collaborate, we're going to do all of these things. And then, the next person that comes down the line, like when your back is turned, it's not that at all.
Mhm.
And so when I left, like I did keep it very open of like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm planning to do. I will still refer to you because I think they do really great work there. And I have referred clients. And it's been, it's not as well received on the other way. But I also don't want to speak, negatively about any
Yeah.
of that. But I really do try to collaborate with our we have local chiropractors that we collaborate with, local pediatricians. There's a lady that we're working with who does more of like nervous system health for adults. And we're kind of creating like this program where I'm focusing more on the kids side. She's focusing more on the parenting side. We have a 12-week like workshop that we're working on for this like early winter-ish, depending on when our cohort starts. But I do think it's really important because there are things that I can't bring to the table that other people can. And yes, would I love to have on my team all of the people that can do all of the things? That'd be awesome. But realistically, that's just not going to happen. And, maybe someday, Lord willing, maybe it will. But in the meantime, we have really great people here anyway who are doing those things. So I would much rather collaborate and build those connections where, I can refer to you guys can refer to me, and we can really help these clients because in the long run, like it is about what is going on with the families and the clients that we're seeing. I want to see them succeed. If I can't help them in that, or I can help them in one part, but somebody else can do something else to help them, that's where I want them to be too. So I am very collaborative and I want my employees to feel that way too. And we'll like reach out to different places. We'll take information to other places, but I love to just incorporate as many people as we can. I think it is really important.
So that is how I ran my marketing agency. Like this is what I have to offer. If I think somebody else
Yeah,
is better suited, I will send you. And what I really, really strongly believe is that when you hold yourself to that high of a standard where the only thing that matters is what's best for the client, whether it's you or somebody else, you will always have a successful business.
absolutely. Yeah,
So I um I think that's incredible.
yeah.
I just it's about having that mindset of abundance. Like you're
Absolutely.
not losing by passing. Like
Exactly. No. And I know like we are a cash-based practice, so not everyone can afford the services that we're offering, but there are great places in the area that do take certain insurances and you know, I still want you to get that help. Yes, would I
yeah.
love you to be in our doors? Absolutely. But again, it's just not realistic and I've had like coffee with OTs that work at the other places locally, and I'm happy to collaborate with them. Now, am I going to give them all the things that I do? No, but I'm, still going to work with them and share information for people. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Where do you see rooted in wellness 5 to 10 years from now?
Mm. Oh, great question. So when I started, again, we haven't even hit 2 years yet. And I cannot believe the growth that we've had in the last year and a half. What started as just me has branched off into speech therapy services. We also have a couple other OTs. We currently have an infant feeding therapist as well. So we have like branched out a lot. And just this fall, we opened up a second suite within the building that we're in, which is our play and grow studio. So we have open play for moms and their kids to come in or dads and their kiddos. It's 2 days a week they can come and play. We've got nice high top tables. You can bring your coffee in. We've got free Wi-Fi. So it's a safe space. And I want community. Like I think that is such a missing thing in our area too. Like there's not a lot of spaces out there for especially for moms who are working from home or working in their businesses and they have their kids with them. Where do you go? Like there's not a lot of that. And I want safety for our kids because I think we live in a really stressful world, as we all know. And our kids feel that. So if they can have a place where they can feel safe, they can learn and they can grow, that's huge. 5 to 10 years, I would love to see more therapy in place here. And I would love to see more of like an educational side coming in too. Um, we I think for some kids, public school can be really great, but we've seen like the downfalls of it in our home. So starting homeschooling was something where it was like, okay, we have to find our community now. And I'm an OT, so I have worked with a lot of different kids who learn differently. And my daughter being one of those kids that her brain just thinks differently than other people. So we have really had to think outside of the box of, okay, how do we teach our multiplication facts when we're in, fifth grade and we'd have no idea how to multiply or we're still struggling to add. Um, but I would love to have maybe like small groups or tutoring sessions where it's not just like, oh, everyone learns the same way, but how do we take the way that your brain learns and teach you the tools to get those foundational skills that you need educationally? I don't know how that happens or when or whatever, but someday.
We're releasing the
Um,
how.
yes, exactly.
We're
Surrendering.
releasing the how.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Well,
yeah,
that's amazing. I think that you have a lot of incredible things coming, and mostly because of the heart that you have to serve people. Because I know over the years, neither of my kids have ever been in OT, but just thinking of different adults that have been involved in helping shape my kids in different ways over the years, whether it's somebody that worked at their school or like a coach or a, doctor or like just adults that have come in contact. Um, as a parent, you can really feel the difference when somebody cares and they're doing this because this is where my heart is to serve and where it's like, oh, this is a job and I enjoy the paycheck. And it is a very different feeling of like trust from
yeah.
a parent's perspective. I mean,
Mhm.
I can say that I have felt that way over the years,
Yeah. And I think our kids pick up on that too. Like
for
honestly,
sure.
they
Our
they
kids
know
are
way more
way
than we
more
think we
receptive
know.
than we are.
Yes, way more. They know so much more than we do.
So much more, so much more. That actually makes me think of a really funny story. One time I like was on a business call. My son was like, I don't know, he was probably like 6 years old, and he's in the back seat of the car, and I got off the phone and I was like, life lesson of the day. Nothing is free in life. And
Never.
he was like, the library, mama. The library is
The
free.
library is free.
And I was
Even
like, somebody paid for those books.
right.
Nothing's actually free.
Nothing's free. Oh,
Kids
that's
are
so
so
funny.
funny. They will
They are
humble
so
you
funny.
really quickly.
Real quick. Yes.
So, okay, for to wrap it up and come full circle,
Mhm.
for the mama who is listening, who really feels that God is calling her for more, or maybe she has something on her heart that she
Mhm.
just feels called to more, but she is
Mhm.
currently in maybe a safe option
Sure.
of already, maybe she's an OT in a safe place, but she feels called to open a practice, or she's in a seemingly safe option. What is one piece of advice that you would give her?
Yeah. I think number one, like when you have that gut instinct or that God, dropped that message in there, you have to listen to it. It's there for a reason. And I say this to parents all the time too, is that like as a mom, like your mom gut, no, like your gut, your intuition, your instinct, things. And when you're feeling that and you're feeling pulled to it, I think don't be afraid of it. Like launch yourself into it and especially as a believer, like God's going to give you the tools that you need for those things. And so if you're feeling it, you're feeling the nudge, surrender. You got to surrender it. And I think back to there was a friend of mine who, when we were really like in the trenches of a lot of things, and I was starting the business and we were figuring out homeschooling and all the things. And she said, what did Peter do when he walked on water? Like he just kept his eyes on Jesus. And if you can keep your eyes there and keep your focus there, the rest is going to come into place because the minute he took his eyes off, that's when he started to sink. So that is like my biggest advice, especially if you are a believer, like put your trust in that, God's going to carry you through it. And don't be afraid of all of the noise in the background because that's just a distraction. Yes, there's things that we have to do, right, to like get all of the things in place and the how. Yeah, we have to figure out some of the how, but really, you don't have to have every little detail figured out with it. Yeah.
That is an incredible piece of advice. And I appreciate you so much for being here and for just being a part of the conversation because there's so many things that we run into as moms and as business owners. So I just appreciate you so much. And for anybody who's listening, I am going to put links for you to connect with Adrian in the description. And if you enjoy these conversations, please like and subscribe so that we can continue them. Thanks so much, Adrian.
Thank you for having me.